What is good, YouTube? Is Aaron back here with the channel, and today we'll be going over some Genesis content. Is this something you'd like to see more of? Please let me know down below. But yeah, otherwise, like, comment, subscribe, and we're going to get right into it. So, I spoke with Steven Santoli after his run in Anaheim, and I obviously don't have any events in the near future, and my locals are starting up. So I was like, alright, let's take a look at Genesis format. And he told me, obviously, Vanquish was a very good deck, Exosisters are a good deck. So what kind of engines perform well into that deck? And he mentioned that Invoked Purgatrio is something that can help facilitate ending the game through a Vanquishful endboard, because even if they go super wide, you can just obviously Purgatrio, make it pretty big, and attack over all their guys. So I was like, okay, cool. Let's play a fusion deck. I like Shadow cards. I think Magical Meltdown's a very impressive card. Branded Lust, obviously, whatever, 66 points. Meltdown's free. So this card has a similar effect where you cannot respond to the ton of monsters, and the activation of your fusion spells can't be negated. So it effectively is a fusion spell when it's activated, because if they do have a spell or trap negate, they have to interact with it. So I saw this, I was like, okay, endboards probably won't be too oppressive in the current state of the game, because all the extra deck monsters that do negate are pretty expensive. So yeah, I was like, let's just build a fusion deck. So I spent my points on a Draco Tail 5 mana, and a Malulu, 2 Ketsus, and an Arthaline. And in addition to that, we've got a Guardian Chimera, and 1 Keldo. We're at 98 points, and I threw that in to try and get the deck up to 40. And yeah, so we've got King of the Swamp, we've got Polymerization, we've got a bunch of Shaddoll cards. This is just like kind of a rough idea of what I was trying stuff out. So we've got Genius, we've got Ariel, just our good going second cards, Wendy to try and keep names in rotation, we've got Beast, Hedgehog, Swamata, Dragon, obviously, then 3 Shaddoll Fusion and 1 L Shaddoll Fusion to try and help facilitate game shots. Yeah, this is like just kind of a rough idea of everything. We got Upstart Goblins because I couldn't really figure out what I wanted in the deck. We've got 1 Jizakuru just to like be able to get searchable. It is searchable through Shaddoll Fusion and Arthaline if you're concerned with Towers decks. Yeah, we've got one of all of the good names, Urgula, Pam, we've got Frixel because you can make Construct with it. I currently do not main the Lucaith. I'm siding it just because I wasn't sure if I would be clogging on normal summons. So I only have those on the side deck. I actually will have an updated list after this discussion where I show you some of the changes that I made. This is just like my initial idea. And Upstart Goblin, I was like, okay, cool. I just want to get to Shaddoll Fusion. I want to get to Magical Meltdown. I want to get to like all the strong cards in my deck. One of the primary issues that I found with this card is Drone Lockport is much more prominent than I was kind of anticipating, both in main and inside. Like it happened to be a few different times on ladder. So I was like, okay, that's a big problem. And my deck kind of just thrives off of monsters in hand anyways because of cards like Arthalion and obviously Guardian Chimera, where as long as I have a monster in my hand, even if it's like a dead card, I can still try and do something with it. So this card ends up getting cut pretty quickly. In terms of the side deck, I just went pretty cheap, obviously. Cosmic Cyclone, Dark Ruler. When I wanted to go first, I was like, okay, we'll just like play Draco Tail. So I got Lucaeus and then the extra traps, Sting and Horn. We're main decking the 1 Flame, that way in case we do not end the game, we still have Flame as like a strong inboard interaction. XYZ Encore because of cards like VFD and Exosister and whatever, Purely, just all those oppressive cards, and obviously Powers out in the form of Jizakuru. Extra deck, we've got Secretarion, Arthalion, and 2 Galamo, just because we can't afford them more Arthalion, so I wanted to make sure that I had enough targets for Rahu in my extra deck. 2 Construct, Grista, which is primary here, so I can Shaddoll Fusion send Urgula, so I can go either Dragon Urgula to pop 2 back row, or I can do whatever name plus Urgula to get a Draco Town rotation, and I'll also force out a net interaction. Second Naga for Earth. I think this card is like kind of works as an inward piece on occasion. And it is primarily made with Lucaeus. I think it's actually my only Earth, if I remember correctly. But also Keldo, I think that was the other reason. So Keldo plus a Shaddoll off of Shekanaga, which what I've kind of learned also is that we play Ariel, which I think functions effectively the same as Keldo, so that card isn't really needed in the list. And then yeah, I had Guru in here just because I wanted to be able to perform a summon with a Dark Spellcasters. And Winda is 60 points, and what is the other one? Kaliga is 90. So it's actually pretty difficult to resolve a fusion summon for just like Dark Spellcasters, and that's why I included Guru. I think that's probably one of the fundamental issues with this deck is just like how expensive those cards are. So I think if you want to include a card like Winda, you have to like just play a full Shaddoll deck, which is fine, obviously, but like I think the Draco Tail is just the strongest fusion in the game right now. So to include both, you have to make like some pretty big concessions, including spending 33 on Guardian Chimera, which I don't think I love in hindsight. I think one of the things I've kind of learned is this deck probably still wants to go first. Shaddoll Fusion is a good card, but you can't really guarantee that your opponent's endboard is going to end with extra deck monsters right now. So I think it's a bit of a problem. Also, I like the Alistair, the Invoker engine, but it's hard to guarantee like the correct attributes for your endboard. So I like this. I'm not sure if this is going to be what I end up playing at moving forward, but I think the premise is interesting. And I'm going to show you the thought process of how I go through everything. And then we have Invoked Abilities, which is like a big inboard piece. And if you start rotating your extra deck monsters, it can pop stuff and then obviously attack for a lot. And then we've got 1 Mechaba, 1 Purgatrio, 1 Raijin, and 1 Coxus. Raijin was there for if I open Alistair, I can use their Droll Lockbird or their Thwalos to make a extra deck monster. That's just like a reasonable interrupt. And then this was for, there was a specific water monster, I think it was for like 5 minutes. Also King of the Swamp. I think just like having more targets for Alistar in my extra deck felt kind of necessary, which I think is a bit of the problem with the deck, is you kind of have to like prepare or like be able to play with your opponent's graveyard, and that's not always guaranteed. Just like the format's really diverse, you can't really kind of anticipate what you're playing against. So I think the Alistar Invoker engine is good in some specific situations, like against Vanquishal. But there's also no guarantee that they put fire monsters in your graveyard for your Purgatory. So I think I like the idea of this deck, but there's definitely some things to work on. We're actually going to go over a gameplay with it real quick. This is a game 3 against Generator, as you can see, where I'm actually able to play through VFD, which I think was kind of neat. So I'm just going to let it play his turn out real quick. And yeah, so our hand is Urgula, Cosmic Cyclone, which I think you need for boss stage in this matchup, Alistar the Invoker, Skolmata, and Rahu. We draw Flame for turn. He goes boss stage and then tries to chain link Calamities, but I obviously have Cosmic. And then the mistake that he makes here is calling Earth. I don't really understand what he thinks he's stopping here, because he's seen this deck burn game 3, obviously. He wins game 1 going first off of VFD and Interblafner. Then I win going first game 2, so he's seen most of my deck at this point. So I think just Dark here is correct because, Shells cards. And like Lucaeus obviously doesn't get to affect that summon, so it doesn't really benefit. So yeah, we go Rahu, we send Pan, and I believe Skolmata for my hand to get some value. Galamo, we get to Pan, clear as VFD, and we're in a pretty solid slot from here. So I think this is, one of the strengths of this deck, is you get to have so many different attributes in your deck off of the Draco Tails, and you used to have a lot of strong effects, like Rahu and Ketu, both just really strong cards. And obviously you get to play a Draco Tail post side, if you are going first. There we go, yeah, Hedgehog to add beast to keep our hand strong for our Draco Tail package. And we're going to set Alistar just because if it gets flipped up, you still get the effect to search. So I thought that was a good idea, considering that's the only card we're going to normal summon. And we've got Flame. So now we've got 5 mana into Draco Tail stuff. Obviously, Arthaline. He goes Vala, summon Vala from Grave. And don't think, Vala summon Mardel. And Mardel's going to search boss stage. And here, you could like argue to try and do something preemptively. I was still learning the Generator deck, so I didn't feel like it was like a great idea to pop it early. But in hindsight, it's probably just best to like 5 mana here, try and pop some cards, and like prevent him from making a rank 9. I'm not too familiar with the rank 9 pool because in Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! It's not relevant. So I let him make the rank 9, and he has one that tributes for cost and ends up like clearing my board, which is pretty inconvenient, but doesn't end up being game ending. So he goes for this. I think he should probably take Galamo plus Flame. Like my set card probably doesn't matter too much at the end of the day. Even if it's something like Skolmata and like outs this, like his game plan here is based off of boss stage and then what he has in hand, which is Lofter and Herald the Orange Light, so he can try and play the game that way. So he goes for this big guy. We both draw a card. I banish this Abundant Beast. And he tries to enter battle phase, and obviously we have 5 mana here. And instead of orange lighting, which I think he should be doing, he lets this resolve and then tries to orange light the Galoma, which I kind of understand, but at the same time, like, I just, like, if I do get to resolve my 5 mana effect still, then I think the game is pretty rough for him. So, if he cuts off the 5 mana, then he can just attack over the Galoma, and then, like, I'm stuck with 2 dead cards in hand. As a result, I now get to resolve my Urgula and everything here. So, this is how the chain ends up. I get to Ketsu, I get to everything, and we're in a pretty solid position. He goes boss stage, and ends up a bunch of guys, but at this point, like, we just have too many resources. We've got King of the Swamp to force Chimera. We've got Ketsu, which will also force Galoma, which will force his heart. I think this deck is really neat when it gets rolling. The Draco Tail engine is obviously just, like, really, really, really strong. Which, what a surprise. Like, in a lower power level format, like, the cards that are more modern are going to perform better because of how strong their card quality is. So, yeah, like, at this point, I get to actually pull off the line, which I wanted to do, which was Alistar and the Invoker into Purgatory to clear everything. So, I think that interaction, or, like, that accessibility the engine has is wrong. I just don't know how relevant it is in this format. Like I said, the inboards, you can't always guarantee, are going to have extract monsters on them. So, probably not, like, I think the 2 ways to approach this deck now are, like, after playing a little bit more, either, so this is, like, the updated version of that list where I play Alpha the Master of Beasts is like a good going second card. It also puts itself in hand, which I think isn't good to like recur your resources for Arthaline and Chimera. And then I put Lucaeus in the main just because I realized how important it is to just like have that extra body. I cut the Keldo. I think I may have changed the Shadol engine a little bit, just like slimmed it down slightly. And extra deck I think is the same, which, and again, I think there are problems with this deck. I think if you want to play this version of the deck moving forward, you should actually just like full commit to the Draco Tail cards and probably not play Alistar. I think Meltdown is like really, really good though. So that's like the big selling point for me on this deck is just Magical Meltdown, turning all of your fusion plays into like unresponsive plays. Because then you get to like Glomel, pop their back row. You can do whatever. So I think it's a lot of strong plays off of that card alone. But I think it's maybe a little bit too fragile. Obviously, there's no dimensional barrier. There's less negate, so it may end up being playable at some point. But I think just like Vanquishful on its own, just like too strong right now for this type of a deck. So the other way to play this deck is something that I this is just like very, very rough idea. Is you play more Shaddolls, you cut the Guardian Chimera, and we're currently at 108 points, so I have to make probably some cuts. I think Arthline probably has to go down to 1. But you play a lot of Shaddolls, and you play Cartesia and Fusion Deployment, and this way you can play Grand Guignol, which there should be a second one of them in this deck. And you use App Cologne to search either Shaddol Fusion, or you search Schism going first, and you can't Schism for Winda, but you can Schism for different Shaddol monsters that will send their opponent's monster off of Schism's effect, which if your opponent special summon, you can summon a monster of the same, any summon a monster of the same attribute off of Schism, you will then send that monster to the graveyard. So there's a lot of utility in the Shaddol engine. I think you would probably play it like pretty robust engine with Resh and probably a couple Wendy. It's like a really heavy Shaddol package. And I think I said like the Alistair package is probably not ideal. So I think I would lean more into like full Shaddol plus Draco Tail, whatever you can afford to play. We're obviously at 108 already, so we probably have to cut an Arth Alliant, and we have 12 points to work with, which not a lot, but we can maybe put in a second Malulu. We can put in maybe the third Ketsu, which I think is really strong. And these trap cards are so oppressive in a grindy format where the games aren't going to end super quickly. So if you're able to just resolve Draco Tail Sting over the course of turns, just like resolve it twice, resolve Flame twice, etc. Like I think that would probably be how I'm going to lean playing a fusion deck moving forward. It's just maxing out on the Draco Tail names. And only 1 mana I think is fine. Like you don't really need like the turn 0 play that much. You need to have one in your deck for the interaction on your opponent's turn, which you have Arth Alliant for. You obviously have Gulamel. Maybe play something like Mysterion in this deck because you have a lot of spellcasters to work with along with dragons. So. And I think Philly Regis is free as well, which I'm currently not playing. Kind of hard to justify when I cut this Arthline down to 1, so we'll see if we can make a space for it. But I think I would definitely lean more towards another Cartesia fusion aspect of the deck. Because you only need Cartesia plus a Dark Monster, which you have plenty of access to off of the Shaddolls, which I would play a robust package of. And then you also get to do neat stuff like on your opponent's turn, if you go Cartesia into Grand Guignol, you can then App Cologne, you can dump an Aerial, you can like interact with them that way. You now have a Water Engrave to make Voyatilis, the Shaddol. So I think this is probably how I'm going to lean into building the deck moving forward, especially if I want to prioritize going first. So this is probably what I'm going to play for a little bit. See if it's viable. Obviously, the main deck's the format, Vanquishful, Exosister. We'll see how those shake out, but I enjoy the Fusion archetype. I'm not going to get buried, so we're going to see what I can make happen with this. So yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know if you want to see more of this content moving forward, and I'll see you in the next one.